huge like artist base, so I feel like it's kind of easy to just like capitalize on it, to be honest.
Yeah, do you find that that like the art community here like is growing? Because I mean, to be honest, for the majority, I just see a lot of
Mhm.
maybe I'm not tapped into the timeline as well as I should be, but I just see a lot of like curation accounts, so accounts that are built off of like just
Uh-huh.
curating different art styles and artists and pieces and whatnot. Sometimes credited, sometimes not.
Right. I mean, I feel like it's growing, but like in a different sense. I feel like because I've always been in between like the art community and then like the graphic design community. Um, so I've realized like a lot like over like the last year or so. Uh, a lot of people kind of left the art community. I think a lot of it was just kind of. I think you saw like a lot like a large decline in kind of uh people being able to make like a sustainable like income off it. So I think a lot of people kind of just stopped. But I definitely realized like a huge like uptick in like the like you said like the curators and stuff, and also um I also realized like a lot of the graphic design community is growing, which is really cool because um that's like that's like my main love. Like I love graphic design. So it's really cool to just kind of see it growing and like um getting cool with like new people off of it and stuff too. It's pretty fun. So
Okay. Yeah, before we get too deep into that, welcome to the show, guys. Thank you for joining us. We have here with us Rashon or Gemini, who as one of the more unique styles that we've seen. Thank you for coming on, man. It's good to have you.
yeah, yeah, man. I appreciate it. I'm super happy to be here. Very cool opportunity. I'm excited.
Yeah, yeah, good stuff, good stuff. But as you were saying there earlier regarding the dynamic of the art community on Twitter. You said that like before it used to be easier for like indie creators to be on the platform. Like before when exactly?
Uh, well, I would say kind of. I think like around maybe around like near the pandemic or whatever, there was like a huge, I feel like, peak in the art community where I saw like a lot of people kind of break out, like a lot of my peers and stuff. They kind of had like a lot of their peaks in terms of just like growth and like everything during that time, and you saw like a lot of people kind of. Everyone was at home. I feel like it was kind of easy for people to just want to jump in and like start getting into art and like, making stuff, getting a following off it and everything. So um, I always saw like a lot of that around that time, and I think now it's kind of a weird spot, especially with social media. I feel like it's kind of changing a bit, but I think it's still kind of in a good place. I think it's just maybe like dwindled in a way or so.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, so it was during COVID. Everyone's at home and people decided to log on. Okay, yeah, no, that
Yeah,
makes sense. That makes sense. And especially like with the explosion of AI art now, that's definitely changed things up a bit.
yeah, exactly. I think yeah, it's kind of funny you mentioned that. I never really like thought about it much, but I've definitely seen like a lot of like a shift in that way too. Like I've seen like a lot of like AI artists kind of come out of like I guess nowhere and like start making art too, of course. So that's it's interesting.
Yeah, a lot of people in the crypto space as well, like dropping NFTs and whatnot. I see it more on the timeline than. Oh, actually, no. It's a fair balance. Like, if I just go on the for you page, you should be able to. Yeah, we have like accounts like this that are curators, um, but then a lot
Mhm.
more people. Like, what is this? I don't know. This is just car design. But yeah, they'll like drop and say like they have an NFT dropping on this kind of blockchain.
Right.
Costing so and so much, or they're having an auction and whatnot. Um, what's your take on all that, the NFT and the crypto space?
Um, I knew about it like very like early on, and I was like involved in it early on. I feel like when it was like kind of first like popping off, because I had a lot of like friends obviously that were like really into it and like getting into it like when it was like first coming up. And I don't even think there was like trying to think of the name of the main NFT thing everyone's on. Oh, super rare. Like there was none of that. It was kind of just like open sea and stuff like that. Uh, I was involved with it like early on in that space. It was kind of before like AI was a thing and stuff too. And then I think it kind of just drifted off for me because it wasn't really like I would say like my focus of where I wanted to put my art like into in a way. I felt like it wasn't really like the market I was like going for. So I kind of like backed off of it in a way. But obviously, like I still have like friends and stuff that are kind of like involved in that space. I don't really know much about it anymore because I've been so like disconnected from it. Um, I'm not really like big on it per se in terms of like I guess what I think of it. Uh, I think I think like the idea of it is good for sure. I think uh, I would say like the community itself. I feel like there's a lot of people out there. There's a lot of artists out there that kind of deserve a lot more. Uh, I would say maybe attention than getting in that space. So I think it's kind of something where I think it could definitely be like improved in a way, but I think it's interesting. I think it could definitely, like benefit artists in some. So I'm definitely for that for sure.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Regarding it just getting a little weird, just because the space got oversaturated by
Right.
the amount of people trying to join, and then it's like whenever money gets involved, and especially with crypto,
Yeah.
like that's you're gonna invite all sorts of characters, um, and it's hard to like I don't know. For me, it's hard to justify like purchasing or like getting involved in any of that kind of stuff unless you have like a stated purpose. Like if you're gonna resell the piece or
Yeah.
put it up somewhere, like the I remember like one of the initial ideas was that once the metaverse popped off, which it never did, people are gonna be able to like hang paintings in their own like little digital space and whatnot. And I was like, okay, well I guess
Yeah.
that kind of makes sense, like having a VR hangout, but I
Right.
mean, someone could just like copy and paste that. Which okay, fine. Like it's not
Yeah.
the same as ownership, but I
Right.
mean, ownership to me it doesn't. It just I don't know. It doesn't really mean much if it's digital. You know.
I feel like the same exact way. Like I'm very big on honestly like physical media, which is also why I'm so like not really into that space. That space is kind of in a way like just to myself. I feel like it's kind of pointless because I don't feel like it really does much for me, and it's not really like what I'm trying to go for.
Hmm.
But obviously like I have peers in it, so like I'll always have like respect for it in some way 'cause they're doing good in that space. But um yeah, like you said, it kind of just didn't really go in like the direction I think I like or really anyone expected it to, especially when it got so flooded. And I feel like it kind of in a sense like the purpose kind of changed of like the people who were involved in this space and like the collectors and like everything like that. It just got like really saturated. So I think it kind of messed things up a lot.
Yeah, and there are like a number of people that are really doing it different with their NFTs or just like with crypto in general. That I mean, I could have never thought of doing something like this, but I'm not sure if you're familiar with Schlums. He's man, I don't even know what to make of him besides like a shit disturber through art. I remember this
Mhm.
he one of his earlier projects. I don't think I'm gonna be able to find the site where he posted it, but I think he blew up a Lambo, and then
Oh wow.
he had the parts like sold off using crypto, and then like that wasn't like anything to do with NFTs, but when he did an NFT, he famously pulled a prank and posted a fake screenshot that Google was sunsetting Gmail. I don't know if you remember this, like a couple months back.
Nah, I don't
So this
think
is like
so, but that sounds crazy.
this is like last year, probably like in March or April. The story went viral because everyone was like, "Holy shit! What do you mean Gmail is ending? What the fuck? Like this would cripple me. This
Oh
would cripple my
wow.
business."
Yeah.
Um, and a bunch of people fell for it because it looked like really authentic. You know, it had all the makes of it. And
That's insane.
so what ended up happening was obviously community notes eventually stepped in, and once the hype died
Right.
down and everyone got their engagement in, um, Shloms was like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna sell the initial screenshot that I made as an NFT and host it
Oh my
on
god.
the Google servers."
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's actually kind of crazy. Holy shit.
Yeah, he does weird stuff like that with his NFTs. Like it always has kind of like a I don't know, like a prankster kind of like mentality to it. Um, but there's a handful of artists like him out there that are doing stuff like that with NFTs. I mean, the other application that I've heard is that um, NFTs are really good for um, stuff like the deed to your house, like something
Mm.
that you would want to be as like scam proof as possible, because apparently there's some kind of a scam with the house deeds, especially in America, where if somebody has like certain pieces of information, they could actually like own the deed to your house. But
Oh, what the fuck?
yeah, but if it exists on the blockchain and you have the proof for that, well then, nobody can really deny that.
That's insane. Yeah, there's like so much going on over there that like I have like no clue about. And it's kind of crazy to me though, because it's like super advanced now. Like I don't really remember it being that advanced, like when I was first involved in it. And it's cool, like when I feel like there's people that are like involved in the space and they kind of are like, oh, like I can do more with this idea than just like putting up like an NFT on the blockchain or whatever. I think that's kind of cool. So
Yeah, there was also another example that I heard about where the basketball league that Ice Cube started called the Big Three,
yeah.
they released some NFTs for some of the teams that are there, so that if you own the NFT, you essentially have like a player card and you own a stake in the team. So you do have
Oh,
like
uh-huh.
voting rights, like to an extent on certain things, and you also have the value of your NFT goes up the more like the better that your team does. So they like
Yeah.
they they enabled the audience member to like interact with the game and the team in a much different way. Like you can't just buy into the Yankees, you can't just buy into the
Right.
Mets. But
Right.
with this, it gave people an opportunity to do something like that.
Yeah, that's actually really cool. I heard about that like a little bit before, but I like that idea. Like I think that's really cool. And I feel like it makes things more interesting than people just buying like like a or something. I think
Hmm.
like it gives people something to just kind of like feel involved in some way. Like I think that's like the direction it should be going. So that's cool.
Yeah, for sure. I just realized I never gave you a chance to introduce yourself. I don't know shit about you, man. So if you could just tell me a little bit about yourself there.
Yeah, my name's Rashon, of course. I'm 22 years old. I've been doing graphic design since I was 12. So 10 years now. Um, it's actually kind of crazy to say that, but um, I've been doing like involved in art and everything probably since I was around, I would say 14. Graphic design was kind of like the gateway for that for me, but I was always really just like involved in art. My brother's an artist. Um, I've always had like such a love for it and everything. So it's always just been kind of a part of me, like creativity as a whole. And just being involved in so many different like creative outlets, like you know, designing, art, fashion, like all across the board. It's just something that uh, I have a lot of like love for and a lot of care for. Um, so you know, uh, yeah.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Does it is it something that runs in the family? Is your whole family like a bunch of creatives or?
um, it's really just like me and my brother, but my brother's been doing art since I was young because my brother's probably about like 8 years older than me. Um, so I grew up like watching him like he was just making stuff in front of me. Like we used to like share a room when I was a kid, so like he'd be sitting there like drawing and like making stuff. Now he's like a tattoo artist too. It always had like a big like impact on me. Like he's kind of the reason I like really got involved in the graphic design. Like he helped me like pirate like Photoshop for like the first time ever when I was
Hmm.
like 12 years old and uh, everything like that. So it's had like a huge impact on me and like my grandmother. She's like a huge into like art collecting and stuff. It's like a very like I would say like very artsy like background. So it's definitely had like a huge like effect on her.
Gotcha, gotcha. Do you find that that you share like similar styles with your brother, or is it like just completely like night and day with you guys?
Um, I I would say it's definitely like completely different, especially because he's always been kind of I can't really draw. I can't like draw well, but like that's like his thing. Like he's just always like done that. Like I watched him grow up do that, and then when he got older, he was just like like I want to be a tattoo artist, and that's kind of like something he's just always done. And I've been kind of more just invested into I would say like the digital like side of everything, like digital art and digital design. But we always have like like similar ideas. Like we've worked together and stuff before. He's done like some stuff for like my clothing. I always like share ideas with him, so it's always been kind of like a not super similar like style in terms of the stuff we create, but we definitely have like some interest.
Gotcha, gotcha. And speaking on your style, what is it that kind of like drew you to it? Is it like something that you
Mhm.
kind of like stumble upon through experimentation? You're like, all right, this is it. Like, all I got to do is just like make variations of it, or
Mhm.
like what did that process look like for you?
Yeah, I I feel like when I first started graphic design, I was I was like kind of into like Call of Duty and stuff then. Uh, so that was like the stuff I made. Um, but when I got older, I got into like music heavily. I started creating like cover art and stuff like that. And I think one of the like big things I always kind of like loved was the whole like vintage ideas and like the textures and it was always just something I kind of like drawn to even just when I was younger when I wasn't making stuff. I think that was always kind of like a big thing for me. I was always just drawn to like really old ideas and just very very vintage. Like that's always just been kind of me as a person. Like I'm still very into that even just outside of art in itself. So I think that that's always played like a big picture.
Gotcha. Yeah, I see what you mean about the album art. A lot of the like the earlier stuff here that you posted before is certainly like reminiscent of that. Like this just reminds me of the I think it's Shaggy had an album. Yeah, something like that. I guess kind of
Mm.
that kind of style.
Yeah, that's really cool. Uh, yeah. Honestly, like a lot of my style is it is really based on like experimentation as a whole, especially because I feel like I I'm drawn to like so many different things. Like I feel like I never really reference one point of, I would say, like a style or anything like that. I've always been very kind of like all over the place. Like I love very like psychedelic art, very very colorful stuff, just stuff that has like a lot going on. And then like I make advertisements and it's very based on a lot of really old vintage stuff, or it'll give you that kind of like feeling or things like that. And I feel like uh kind of evolving over those years, I feel like my idea now is like kind of being able to take references from all those different things and all the things I like, and being able to incorporate it just in like one thing or multiple things, not really sticking to just like one reference point for uh one thing.
Okay. And is it always existed digitally? Like, do you have any like print copies of this stuff or?
Yeah, I sell like prints and stuff. I have like, obviously, um most of the stuff I make is kind of mixed media in some way, where I'll have like physical components of the art that I'll like be making, where I'll like print out stuff, like certain things that I'm creating, go in physically and like do a bunch of collaging work and stuff like that. Um, so I definitely like to be like all over the place in that way. Because I have such a love and interest for physical art, and I feel like it's like one of the most purest forms of art in some way. Like being able to just kind of do things and not really knowing the specific outcome that'll come from it. I think it's um I think it's just one of the most like interesting things, like for art, just being able to experiment and something coming out amazing, and it's like it wasn't intentional, but you just keep it because it's like you love it, you think it looks, I think that's like one of the coolest things ever.
Gotcha. And on that note, how do you know when to step away from a piece? Because whenever personally, like whenever I've done any kind of like I don't know work with filters, whether it's like with photography or digital media, I I have a penchant for taking it a little bit to the extreme when I'm trying to make it like look vintage or like acid wash or anything like that, you know. So like,
Yeah.
how do you know when to when you're like, all right, no, this is done, this is chaotic enough.
um Honestly, like nowadays, I feel like I have to sit on stuff for like a while. Like I used to always kind of be the person that would want to try to make everything and really really fast, and then like post it that day and stuff like that. But um I always kind of have like a process of where I have to like sit there and like look at things for a while for me to be like, okay, like I'm done, I'm not adding anymore, there's nothing left here. uh but it's such a process. Like everything I make, it probably has like at least like 30 different versions or like drafts that are just like different things or like different ideas, or it'll just go through like processes. Like um I'll never really always just finish it uh like within like the first like day or so. I'll always just kind of come back and see, oh, maybe I want to change this, maybe I want to add this, and then after a while I just kind of have to sit with, be like, okay, like I think I'm done, like there's nothing left here. But it's really all about like finding a balance. Like I always try to have like a balance of the idea of like what I'm trying to achieve, whether it's like with the texture or something, the concept itself. Like everything kind of has to have some sort of balance where nothing feels like too like overwhelming. I think that's something like I'm still kind of learning, but that's always been uh like one of the biggest things, especially recently.
So it's more of a feeling. Like it's hard to like put on paper, but it's just like
Yeah,
visually when you see it, you're like, all right, this is good enough.
right. It's very like emotional and very visual. Like I kind of have to like look at something for a while and see how it like sits with me for me to be like, okay, like I'm done. Like this is it.
Gotcha, gotcha. And where do you get where do you find you drawing yourself like in terms of inspiration? Because a lot of like stuff, a lot of media that is similar in this style, like we were saying off stream there for like the early 2000s magazines and whatnot. Um, a lot of that obviously has gone away, and the style is very different now. So where do you find that you get your inspiration for these pieces from?
Um, Honestly, a lot of just really being involved in I would say like archive media. Like I used to really try to like collect magazines and stuff like when I was younger. So like there's that, and then I'll go online sometimes and try to look for rap magazines and like try to find ideas from that, or I'll just like a lot of constant research. Like I love going on Pinterest, honestly. Like as much as I kind of hate saying that in some way, like you you find so much great stuff from there, and they're great references. I think a lot of people kind of hate it because I feel like there's like a big thing where people just like to like copy stuff from something, but there's so much like different resources out there to be able to kind of achieve a certain idea or style or look for something. I always definitely point to a lot of like vintage advertisements of stuff. Like I'll just keep like a whole bunch of them like saved on my computer. I'll just always go through them and kind of use them. Uh, I would say as like reference points or just uh, pay attention to them a lot. It's just a lot about research more than say.
Gotcha, gotcha. Um, what do you think was kind of like the driving force, or like I don't know, just some themes around the design that kind of marked that era in the same way that you're kind of revitalizing it now? Like what is it about that style that like
Mhm.
I don't know, just draws people to it? I mean, stuff that always like looks purposefully vintage, like whether it's filtered or
Right.
not, or has that kind of like gene fade to it, is always
Yeah.
just nice to look at. Is it
Right.
like, do you think it's just nostalgia or?
Um, I would say in a way, I think it's definitely nostalgia. I think it's not as prevalent now, especially as prevalent, I would say maybe in the most like tasteful ways now, or I would say maybe people kind of like overthink the idea. But um I think a lot of it is just kind of people miss that. I think it's like a an emotion that it gives you. Like when you see certain things like that, it gives you like that warmth, or it gives you that kind of it reminds you of something like you may have seen like when you're younger, like the advertisement you saw some or something like that. And I think that people kind of love that because it's just so it gives you like an emotion. And I think that that's something that you don't always see nowadays, especially in graphic design or just art in general, where certain things can give you emotion and it's not even words. It could just be like texture. It could just be like uh the warmth just in like the colors or something. It just kind of it gives you a certain feeling and it like reminds you of something. And I think people love that. And I think that's not something you always see nowadays.
And in terms of your style and how you kind of ventured into digital art, is it or was it always self taught, or like did you go to a program for this kind of stuff?
Um, Pretty much everything just self-taught. Like growing up, I was just constantly on YouTube watching tutorials, speed arts, like stuff like that. Like that's how I got into art growing up. It was just strictly. that was like kind of all it was for me at the time, especially because I was so young. It was just like I would just be on YouTube all day, just like looking up tutorials. Like if I wanted to learn certain things or do certain things, I would just go for that, or I would just watch speed arts all day of like people making stuff. And I would pick up just small things from like all those videos on how to do different things, and then I think it kind of became like a process where it was just repetition where you learn one thing, it kind of helped you learn another thing, or you're able to just put it towards doing a different idea or trying to achieve uh, like a certain concept, anything like that.
I see. Yeah. So self-taught all the way. I mean, with something like this, I don't know how much school would be able to teach you. I feel like it's something that like you gotta grow up in that era and then take all that inspiration and do something with it. I don't know how much school would be able to help with that.
Right.
But no, that's wicked. I'm just scrolling through some of your old pieces here, and I saw that like you included some of the references that you used, and it was a bunch of like old magazine ads for like
Yeah.
jeans and Game Boy games and whatnot. And yeah, and it just reminded me
Yeah.
of like of that whole era. Like I remember grocery shopping as a kid with my mom, in like the early 2000s, and every time I would like rush for the magazine rack, and I just chill there while my mom did all the groceries, and I just flip through the magazines and look at all the cool shit. Like it just takes me back,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, exactly. And like I think like everyone gets that kind of like same like feeling too. Like whenever I'm going through, I'm like looking at like old ads or stuff like that. I'm always just like, oh wow, like I remember seeing this like when I was younger, or it'll remind me of like a video game I played when I was a kid, or just small things like that.
Yeah, and it's also like it's a lot less of like a polished look. Like the ad that you have there, or the magazine cover for like the Bjork, like that's just it's like it's perfect. When I first saw it, I was like, "The fuck!" Like I didn't know they were still making these, and then I was like, "Oh shit, this is like an
Dude,
original piece. This isn't like a scan of an old
dude.
page."
It's so funny because like people always like think that that's like a actual like old magazine cover, and like I had like pages posted before, and like we're like, oh yeah, like vintage magazine with Bjork on it, and I was like, oh, like I made that. And cool feeling to like be able to make something that people think is so authentic or like so real that like they don't even know it's like something like someone just made online. Like I think that's like really uh it means a lot for sure.
Oh well, yeah. I mean, if people can't tell like the distinction between your stuff, like the quote unquote like imitation versus like the original, I mean that's about the best compliment that you can get if it like fits right in and it
Right.
looks just like it, you know.
Yeah, exactly. It's amazing, man. It's really cool to see because it's like it's came with so many different things I've made, and it's honestly kind of led to a lot of people kind of just stumbling across my stuff because they'll find out like, oh wow, like this isn't like a actual magazine, like this is something somebody made, like someone's able to do that, like that's such a cool thing. And I think that it's crazy for sure.
Yeah, wicked. And in regards to your clothing brand, was it just like something that you started simultaneously as you did like digital design, or how did it go about?
um so it was actually an idea I came up with. I think it was my senior year. I was in my marketing class. I was like listening to this song, and it just kind of reminded me of the word like lover boy. And then I remember like being in my class, and I was like, fuck, like I gotta like write this down. Like as soon as I get home, like I'm gonna write this down. Like I already knew exactly how I wanted to like spell it out and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt like it was something that had so much like genuine like meaning to me. And it was always something where I loved fashion always, like since I was a kid and growing up, like when I got really into graphic design, like I wanted to make clothes so bad. Like I would be in my English class, like with my best friend. We would just be sitting there, like in class. Like I would bring like my hard drive of like all my graphic design stuff, and I would just be in like my class, like literally just making stuff. And I think once that started happening, it made me want to really just get into being able to make clothes, and it got me even more into like fashion growing up. Like I got really into it a lot more than when I first started. So it was just like a genuine like connection.
Gotcha, gotcha. Just an extension of your digital stuff. Were you listening to that to the Drake album when it dropped? Was that the inspiration for Lover Boy or?
Nah. It was actually way before. Like, um, I'm trying to remember who the song was by that gave me the idea. I don't know if I remember, but it was like a lyric. Like the lyric was like "Lover Boy." Damn, I don't know. I felt super connected to that word like when I heard it, and I just like it just constantly like thought about it in my head. So it just like felt natural. So I just went with it after that.
I see, yeah. And do you think that this is something that you're gonna like just continue, ride it till the wheels fall off, see where it goes?
Um, I mean, it definitely means a lot to me. It's something like I take very serious. More now than like ever. Like, like when I was first obviously like putting out clothes and stuff. I loved clothes, but I wasn't super serious about it compared to now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I think now the goal is just to take it as far as I can. Maybe one day be able to do like a different thing, like a the fusion brand that's like way more serious, like fashion stuff. Because I want to be able to get to that point one day. Because I think that's kind of the end goal for me. Definitely, is, like just being very into the fashion world for sure.
So getting like in the more like designer category, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. Exactly.
Okay, so maybe you can help me with this then. No, like I see a lot of the only exposure that I have to like high fashion is typically like when these big shows happen in Paris, London, or New York or wherever, and they always got on these just wacky ass outfits, and I figure that's because like for for those creators working in that space, like to them, like fashion, it's just an extension of art. Like they're not making this so that the average family that
Right.
frequents Gap can walk in and
Right.
buy whatever their fit is and deal with that. But they're making it more as like an expression, right? Like that's
Yeah.
is that like the correct interpretation of it?
Yeah, I would say that's like exactly like the way to look at it. It was something I didn't really like get like heavily into high fashion until I got older. Um, but I didn't really understand it at first much either. But it's definitely just I would say like a fueled artistic expression of clothing more than I would say something you would see like a regular day thing. And I don't think it should be looked at kind of like a regular day thing. It's high fashion for a reason. I think it means a lot more. It should.
Yeah, because they have some wild shit out there. Which I mean, I can't make any sense of it. But I like some of the stuff looks cool. Like it looks genuinely
Yeah.
interesting. I don't think I'd
Yeah.
ever wear it, but look, it looks pretty cool.
Yeah. I think in some ways that's kind of the best expression of like to look at high fashion, especially if you're not super like to that type of thing. It's like, oh, I'd probably never wear that, but like it looks super cool. And I think that's a like a good way to look at it because it's not for everyone. And that's not necessarily like a bad thing in a way either. I think it's just kind of a lot of it is just, human expression. Like there's a lot of stuff I see I don't really always understand at first, but I think I think it makes it a lot more interesting. It's kind of in a way it's like sophisticated. I think that's like a cool way to be able to look at, just the article of clothing. I think that's like really cool.
Yeah, I'm just scrolling through your pieces here. Um, I love this the melted lava cardigan that you got there. Is that
Yeah.
that's not hand stitched, is it? Like, how did you go about making this?
Um so they were like obviously like manufactured. I didn't like sell them myself, but they're made out of like complete wool and mohair. I was very like specific on like in terms of like the materials I used, the way it was made, everything, because I wanted it to kind of feel like really, really like authentic. I didn't want to like cheap out on it or anything,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't want to. Uh, I wanted it to feel like a real like piece. That was kind of like my first thing I made after I got really into high fashion, and I was really, really into like this designer named Kiko, and I was just like, I want to make something just that gives me that same type of feeling. Something that kind of just made me feel really, it made me feel like I was kind of like achieving something in a sense. Like, and I think that that was kind of, it drove me a lot after that, just to make more stuff.
So was this like your first like really unique, like one of a kind pieces for clothing, would you say?
Yeah, I would definitely say that. I always kind of put it above like everything else I made before that, where I feel like everything I made before that is kind of me just really getting into clothing as a whole and creating it. And I think now I'm kind of at a place where I understand things a lot more and I know what I want to do. So it's kind of just like doing that from this point out.
Gotcha. Yeah, and it's funny how the your mediums kind of intersect, because I could easily see you pumping out like a collection and then making a magazine in your own style with
Right.
just people wearing the clothing and like different like make believe ads that you just fabricate.
Yeah, I honestly had like so many ideas like that too. Like there's this one idea I wanted to do before where I wanted to put together like a specific photo book like for my brand, and it was just kind of like stuff like you said, like advertisements that I made up and like people just wearing the clothes, and like it was just like a photo book, no words, like it just
Hmm.
kind of displayed the brand. I might even still do that because that'd be cool, honestly. But
Yeah, for sure. Um, um. Oh, I think I scrolled past some posts that oh, looks like Kendrick Lamar went to Ghana and like somebody wore your hat to like an event or something there.
yeah,
What was that about?
yeah,
How did your hat make it there?
um, yeah, it's this amazing artist named Amaray. She came across my work like a couple of years ago during the pandemic,
Hmm.
and she just followed me. And she would always just be like liking my art and stuff like that. And then obviously like she found out I made clothes too. And then from there on, like we started talking about it and stuff. Um, she just bought like a whole bunch of stuff from me. She was just super nice, and she just like wore the hats like everywhere, like just wore it like everywhere. And I think it was like a Spotify event for Kendrick's album, the Mr. Morale album. She was like there, and like she like wore the hat like right in front of him. I was like, holy shit! Like I still remember that day. Like it was like a very insane feeling.
That's wicked, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's fucking cool. Where do you what are your next steps for the brand? Do you think what do you have next coming on? Any kind of new drops that you're expecting to release soon, or?
Yeah, I'm actually working on uh this new capsule right now. It's kind of pretty much all based around like dance culture and rave culture and music as a whole. Uh, so that's kind of been like the space I've been in. It's kind of just like a natural representation of like where I'm at as a person. So I've been working on that. It's something I have like a lot of cool stuff that I want to do with that. I'm working with a lot of different artists on designs for it and stuff. I'm really just trying to like step out my comfort zone with it. It's something that I want to be able to make some really cool stuff for and just like be able to like wow people in some way. So that's definitely coming next couple months.
Yeah, I like the stuff that you have on your shop there, the lover boy, lover girl tee especially.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Because it's out of all the pieces that you have on your site right now, this is probably like the one that encapsulates like your digital art like best with
Mhm.
just the collaging and the layering and everything and the colors as well.
Yeah. Yeah, that's honestly one of my favorite like clothing designs I made. I remember making it and just kind of being like, yeah, like this is like the one. Like this is really good. Like I know this is gonna go crazy. And you know, I think uh I think after that it definitely kind of pushed me even further, like again, with just making clothes because I felt it after that.
And in regards to the kind of market that you have with your audience, is it just like people that follow you, or like the community aspect, or like how do you find I guess your target market in that regard? Like, do you just kind of push it out and say, "Hey, you got a new drop? By all means, share it," and then you got enough connects where people are like, "Oh hell yeah, I'll fucking buy that."
Right. Um I would honestly say it's like a mix of both. It's definitely more kind of using my following to I guess garner the attraction for the clothes. But I'm really trying to focus on being able to grow the demographic, grow the base just to focus on the clothes itself because I know people know me, but the whole idea is I want people to be invested in the clothes and not because this person made anything like that. I want people to be able to actually just be invested in the clothes. So my main goal recently has been to kind of expand the demographic just by kind of advertising really has like been the main thing for me. Just trying to find ways to I would say engage with people with the clothes and the photo shoots and everything like that. I think it's been like helping things grow a lot.
Do you like attend any like I don't know, like cons, or like I don't even know like what that
Mhm.
what that even look like, a trade show or what? Like I mean, like what kind of spaces are there for indie artists like yourself that are trying to pump these designs out?
Yeah, I haven't actually like went to one before, but I definitely want to go to like a market or something like that and like sell clothes at like do a pop up. I think that's like a big way to grow. That's something I really want to do soon is like do like a huge pop up, but I haven't been like involved in that space a lot, but I want to get a lot more into that. It's really just been very online for now, but I want it to be very like in the real world too. I feel like that's like important for clothing. It has to have like a real audience.
Yeah, because honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if you were able to walk into a skate shop and just drop some designs on them and be like, "Hey, I got the stuff. I'm sure
Yeah.
you guys would love it because this is like peak like 2000s pre 2010s like skater culture like
Hmm.
vibe. Like the stuff would fly off the shelves in those kind of shops.
Right, that would be super cool. I gotta set up something like that actually.
Yeah, just looking at like some of your old your shirt design, like especially the Lover Boy factories. I love the black and orange contrast on it, and just all the different layered text. Um, like that would be perfect. Or the Lover World, like
Hmm.
I still wish you had that in the store because I would have certainly loved to cop one of those. That's a great shirt right there.
Thank you. No, people ask me about that specific one like all the time too. Uh, I gotta put it back up or something. People love that. I gotta put some stuff in a skate shop one day though. That'd be really cool.
Yeah, because otherwise, like skate shops, it just I mean I remember I went to one that was I think it was just about to close. I don't even think it was like a West 49. I forget what it was, but um I walk in, they're like on the way out, they're just trying to get rid of their stock so they can sell the shop. And
Hmm.
just like all the pieces that were left over, it was all this like just like shitty quality print of like rock band logos or like cartoons and all this stuff. And like I get it, like that's that's what a skate shop sells, but
Right.
it was just kind of like I could tell that this was like it clearly was cut from somewhere else and it was just kind of slapped onto the shirt. Like there was not like all the work that went into the design was done like
Yeah.
10 years ago and they had just pulled up the
Uh,
assets or whatever and just kind of recycled it. And I was like, yeah, this like it doesn't have any soul to it, you know, whereas like your stuff
yeah.
it has way more character.
Yeah. Honestly, I think that definitely goes back to kind of the place like streetwear is like at right now. I don't like consider my brand streetwear like anymore. Like when I first started making clothes, I did. Um, but I think like over like the last couple years, I think it's been kind of like in like a weird spot of where I think you kind of just see a lot of like the same things or like things like you said, like people just kind of pulling up like old ideas and like, stuff like that. But I think that there's still like a lot of room for people to kind of do, like different takes and like unique takes on stuff like that. And like revive like skate shops and revive the whole I think culture as a whole. I think that there's like so much more you can still do with
Yeah, because it just like the whole place just looked like a hot topic and I was like, man, like
it.
growing up, these places used to have so much more character. This fucking blows.
Right. Yeah, I used to be obsessed with like skate shops as a kid. Like skating was like a big thing for me growing up. I didn't even skate like myself, but like I would sit there and like watch like skate videos all day and
Mm.
um I always been really drawn to the clothing. So I think it is like a natural like thing too where it's just kind of I love that type of stuff.
Oh, you know what you could do? You could bring back remember that whole era where people were wearing like fucking like Bugs Bunny or like SpongeBob like gangster fits where like the photos were edited out so like they had like grills and and all that like and those the gloves and everything like you could bring
Yeah.
that back shit.
That would be so hard. I love those shirts. I gotta get one of those. Like those are like the coolest things ever to me.
Yeah, they're so goofy. I never like I don't recall ever seeing them like on a rack somewhere, but I'd always like see them out in
Yeah.
public, like especially near skate parks. I'd be like, man, where the fuck did you get that? I want one.
Right. Yeah, like I would never be able to like find them like in a store or something, but like I would just always see like people with them on and I was like, damn, like that's low key hard.
Yeah, it's weird. It's weird having like seen this as a kid, and now like that whole era and way of life is gone, and it's never gonna come back. Like now I'm
Uh
approaching like my 30s, and I'm like, all right, well I guess this is just normal part of life. I gotta I gotta get used to this.
Yeah, dude, no, I felt that. I think that's like a huge part of like why I am what I am because I'm just so drawn to like the old stuff and I'm just like no like there's so much good stuff here like why is like this happening and I think it's kind of just like a love for wanting to do something with that and
Yeah, and another part of it, I mean, maybe this is just me personally, but I remember I went to a lecture on design a couple months back, and the gentleman that was talking about it, he basically said that the reason that a lot of the design, um, like regarding everything, like products, vehicles, architecture, even the packaging, like anything and everything, why it feels so soulless is because, um, centuries ago when people made stuff, it was supposed to last for decades, if not
yeah
centuries, and there was also, um, like a higher purpose that people are striving
right
for that was religious or spiritual, and so um, that's why a lot of those things have kind of lasted the test of time. And
right
nowadays, whether it's fast fashion or even
yeah
digital art, with how quick it is to make assets and to get them to production, it's just so much easier to just kind of create throwaways. And there's not really, because we've lost that kind of spiritual aspect, there's also that's causing that
right
effect. Um, but these early like 2000s designs, it like this kind of style that you've encapsulated, it's kind of like it's kind of revitalizing something that's been lost, because like when I look at your
right
pieces, like let me pull up that Bjork poster. um I mean, there's so much detail. Like, first of
right
all, I can notice immediately that like the filter on it, it's not uniform. So there has
right
to be adjustments that are made throughout the piece. Then you have the text, the actual layering of it, the font. And I don't know like which of these assets were actually ripped from somewhere versus like originally made, like
mhm,
where they were taken from photos. Like there's a much more meticulous and kind of handcrafted feel to it, which you don't
right
get from most digital art.
right
Like you really don't. So like this kind of stuff, that's mostly why I gravitated towards your style, because it just seemed like there was a lot more intentionality with it
right
than from a lot of the other stuff that I've seen.
yeah it's definitely intentional like I always kind of been very like feeling like things need to have like a it needs to capture something like the actual feeling. So I think with that, not all these things were, growing up when you made them, like they weren't always kind of just like uh completely uniform or completely perfect. There's a lot of like imperfections in it. These things go through like printers and scanners, they get messed up and I think that's like something that I always try to keep that intentional with everything I create because I feel like, you're trying to capture like a certain idea, uh, things like that. I think that they need to be able to have those same elements, those same feelings of like the actual work back then. And a lot of that was just there's a lot of imperfections. It feels like a real physical thing. Like it feels like a real magazine. And I think that's why people are like so drawn to like that, the design in itself or my work because it feels very authentic. And I think that that's something that's just very big for me, like with everything, where it definitely has to be authentic to the purpose that it's trying to serve. And I think that that's like one of the most important things.
Yeah, I see what you mean by the imperfections. Um, but just like the amount of layering on your piece, like I would hate to scroll through the the layer feed in your files there, because I could not imagine just how many there are with all the little pieces you got.
Yeah, dude, it's insane. I don't even like I have like stuff where obviously I like draw. like digitally and stuff too, and I have like 400, 500 layers of stuff, and then like texture stuff. It's like a huge process for sure. It's never like a one and done thing. I feel like people kind of like think like it's always kind of like the same process or like the same, but it differs every time.
No, certainly. And just pivoting a little, what's your take on AI art? What do you what do you make of it? Because I know a lot of people in the art community are very vexed by it on all sides.
uh, yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. I'm definitely not like a fan of it. Um, I think that AI can be a good resource in a sense. I think that using AI for references or using AI like in a way of I feel like learning or kind of taking something away from it. I think kind of using AI just to just completely generate like a whole artwork and you didn't really do much behind it. There's no thought, there's no soul. Um I think it just kind of ruins the purpose of art and design in itself. Um which I think is kind of my main issue with it more than is that um it just doesn't feel authentic because it's not. And I think that there's issues within it. I think that it could be better. I think that, like I said, I feel like people should uh try to use it in a way as a resource or a reference more than trying to use it just to create this one whole thing. I think that if you're really serious about art, I feel like it has to go further than just that, personally.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, look, everyone's gonna have a different take on it.
Right.
Um, I find that uh, certainly, like, I agree with what you said in terms of reference. AI art, like, is great for getting references or just trying to like visualize an idea before you
Right.
really go like all into it and you sink your time and then you realize like halfway in you're like, fuck, this is actually not at all what I wanted to do. Now I got to restart. It's great for that kind of stuff, certainly. Just
Yeah.
trying to get like different references or see what different like shapes and designs and styles look like. um, I find that a lot of the like discussion around it, it kind of like it tends to fall, at least on Twitter. And I mean, this could just be because the platform is what it is. Um,
Right.
but a lot of people, they just kind of get stuck in this loop of like, is it real art? Is it not art? I mean,
Hmm.
to me, like the way that I see it is it is art. Like you might disagree with like in terms of its quality or its intrinsic value
Right.
or the skill of the person that's making it, but that doesn't change the fact that it's art. I mean, like if I go right now and I open up some music making software and I'm able to create notes of a stringed instrument just by typing a couple of keys. Like I'm not really not cheating. It's just I'm using a tool to make my job easier instead of having to go out and fucking rent a violin and learn how to play it and do all that. Like why would I bother with that? I just have this plugin. I'll just do that
Yeah,
instead.
I feel that, and I think that's why I'm so kind of not really against the idea of, like you said, like using it like of that, where it's just a reference or it's something to build upon like a whole thing. I think that I think that's a good way to use it. Um, I I can't really say much per se of how I would look at it in terms of if it's art or not. I think you make like a good point of like what you said. I think it's kind of uh, it's a very very like blurred line. I feel like I think it's kind of something it'll take time. I think for people to fully know like what to think of it. I think it's still new to where people are kind of still very weird on it too.
Yeah, and I mean the thing is, it's not. AI art is not just about like just typing in a general prompt and then letting the machine do the work. I mean, there's so much fine tuning that can be done. Like you can get really, really, really granular with it. One of the artists that I really love, that pumps out like some actual like legitimately fantastic pieces. You may have not have heard of him. His name is Mac Bakanai on Twitter. But his pieces, in a way, actually remind me of some of your style in terms of how a
Mm,
digital artwork is able to kind of transcend the screen and make you not not necessarily feel nostalgia, but just have a different feeling about the art that it just, even though you know it's digital and you know you're looking at a screen, there's just something
right,
about it that has that more textured or like actual like physical feel to it. Um,
right.
his pieces kind of um, give me the same feeling just because a lot of his style resonates towards like grainy film, kind
Hmm.
of like 1960s 70s like aesthetic, but still
Right.
has a futuristic style. Like let me see if I can pull up um, one of his pieces, like this. Yeah, um, it's Elon Musk in like some kind of Jetsons car, I guess, but the whole thing is like modeled to look, I mean,
Okay, I
it
see.
looks like a vintage like space
Uh-huh.
movie kind of shot, you know,
Right.
or
Yeah, I
even like
think
stuff like this.
right. I think the concept of those are like cool. Like I always like the concept of those a lot. Um, I think it's like you said, it's kind of something like in terms of the art style. It's definitely something to be like, interested in some. So it's definitely cool.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, even though AI art like gets this hate, there's plenty of grifters in the physical art space too, of like people that
Oh
just
yeah.
like pump shit out. I mean, I don't know if you're
Oh
familiar
yeah.
with have you seen that documentary Exit Through the Gift Shop?
I've heard of it, but I have not seen it.
I'd recommend you give it a watch just because it's probably one of the more entertaining stories in the art world that I'm familiar with.
Right.
Not to like spoil it, but basically, it follows this videographer from LA, this guy that immigrated from, I don't remember if it was Algiers or France, but he came to LA, opened up a clothing store, which was
Hmm.
bombing, and he also had this weird obsession that stemmed from some childhood trauma where he had to like videotape everything, and I mean everything, like
Wow.
his kids having breakfast, him brushing his teeth, like it was like an OCD
Oh
level
wow.
compulsion. Um,
That's crazy.
yeah, this man like had tapes from like just about every moment of his like kid's life. I mean, like he would wake up and like hit record and have a camcorder on him at all times. Yeah, it
That's
was
insane.
insane. Like actually like legitimate like mental illness. But
Yeah.
he ended up through his video recording. He was kind of touch and go with the street art world as it was kind of starting to pop off in mid 2000s, getting to 2010s, and he somehow stumbled upon the opportunity to film Banksy and his process.
Oh
Um,
wow.
yeah, which was like unheard of at the time, and this is like when Banksy
Right.
was like really, really popping off and starting to gain notoriety around the world.
Yeah.
And the documentary just kind of takes you through that process, but it essentially
Wow.
ends with um, the guy, Mr. Brainwash, so the videographer. Um, he took all these influences that he got from street art. Like he met up with Shepard Fairey as well. Are you familiar with him?
Yeah, I've heard of him.
Yeah, yeah. He's the guy that did the Andre the Giant obey like sign.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and he also did the campaign for Obama's 2008 election. That hope poster.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
So
cool.
he took all the influences that he got from the art world, and he decided to open up a studio of his own. And the way that he went about it is like he literally created like a print factory. So he would have like prints of like Marilyn Monroe,
Oh
and then
wow.
he would line them up on the floor, have like I don't know, 2 cans of spray paint with different colors and just walk by them, give them a little spritz, and be like, "All right, that's an original."
That's crazy.
Yeah, like he took like this whole idea of street art and he made it into a commodity on like steroids. Like his whole process was about pumping out like as many prints as
Mm,
possible. And so like
okay.
he
So it's kind of like a parody.
kind of, but the thing is like I think he believes he's like hot shit. I think like he actually has like
Uh,
a genuine like ego about himself. So it's not as if like
okay.
he's doing this like ironically to make a point. I think like he genuinely
Oh.
believes that he's like some kind of visionary doing this kind of stuff.
That's interesting. I would actually watch that though. That's interesting.
Yeah, he's an interesting cat. I think he's still actually yeah, I did see one of his pieces. There was an art exhibit, an art fair in Toronto that I went to a couple months back. And he had this Marilyn Monroe piece up where he just took all these different vinyls and made her face out of them. So he's still doing his thing. He's still out there.
Okay, that's cool.
But yeah, still plenty of grifters in the physical world. AI art is not unique in that regard.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely not at all. It's art in itself is definitely a scary place. There's a lot of scammers like ever.
Have you faced any kind of that, like when you're going about your work?
Um, I
Because I
don't
know
think I've
one
ever.
thing. Sorry to interrupt, but like I know one thing that some Chinese brands, what they do is they literally just like rip your design, put it on like some shitty T-shirt, and like put it up on Amazon, and then
Yeah, that
like I've heard a lot of artists get kind of sniped like that.
yeah that happens to me all the time,
Oh
dude.
yeah,
that yeah that's been happening to me for years, where I'm kind of just like it's like whatever, but um. I I always get like the little like scam emails, especially because I have like old NFTs from when I was like still in high school. Like I have like those like fake like scam emails, like someone like trying to buy them. Like I get those like all the time and like DMs and stuff, but I've never had like a situation where I think I had like a actual like encounter with one. Like thank God, but.
yeah. No, I mean especially in the digital space, I figured like that would be the easiest one to rip off of. I mean like
Oh
anyone
yeah.
could like take a photo of like a Degas or like a Salvador Dali and just put it up. I mean, hell, you don't even have to
Yeah.
take a photo of it. There's already like high quality photos of it online. You just slap it on a shirt and sell it, and boom, that's it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's insane, you know. You see it a lot in the graphic design like world too, where it's kind of people's whole like identity is just kind of like ripping stuff or like taking ideas off Pinterest and like just copying. So like it's even still around like in that sense of where people I wouldn't say they're necessarily scammers, like they may be designers, but like in the sense like uh they didn't really they're just kind of ripping something, I guess you could.
Yeah, and in terms of where you go next with your with your style, do you find that it's kind of evolving past the kind of like magazine like collage, or do you find like that's still like a comfortable medium for you to like there's still like room to explore?
Mhm. Um, I feel like I'm at a place with design where I've been very focused on I would say like a fundamental side of everything where I've been really trying to experiment with things like the compositions and kind of uh maybe like the color treatments I do or the texture treatments I do. It's a lot of kind of I would say it's still very much like my style and uh not necessarily a complete differentiation from anything I've already created, but it's kind of just like expanding on that in a design sense where I feel like I'm just kind of I'm learning more, I'm trying different things. I feel like I'm very, very like focused on trying to improve in a graphic design way where I didn't go to school or anything. I don't know like all the fundamentals. I don't know like all these certain things. And I think right now I'm kind of in a place where I'm trying to learn that as I go while still uh expanding on my style and doing, things that I've always kind of done similar to.
Yeah, no, fair enough. And I mean, look, man, for somebody that hasn't gone to school for this, I mean, your work is it's fucking awesome, man. Like I'm just looking at the Sopranos poster, and I mean it's I don't know, words fail me. Like it's like I can't really
Yeah,
there's not really anything that I can say to like encapsulate a design in a word or a sentence. Like it kind of it speaks for itself. Like I love it. I
right.
love it. The way that you have the text oriented, the different outlines that you have, the layering of the text, the different font selection, like it's just it's so singular. So man, you're whatever the fuck it is that you're doing, keep at it because this shit
Thank
is
you.
fire.
Thank you. I appreciate it. That's one of my favorite things I made too. Like, I forgot to even say, but I think like one of the main things for sure is like intention with like everything I make, where I feel like I'm kind of going into it trying to make different things that I haven't before, like where I'm like, oh, let me try to make something with a lot of negative space. Like I don't have a lot of things where it's not a lot going on. Like that's kind of a new thing for me where I'm trying uh, just focus on different things, focus on like typography, focus on composition, focus on kind of like the maybe the direction or the message I'm trying to like convey in something. um so it's definitely been like a like different mindset like all around in terms of creating.
Yeah, and I see what you mean about negative space because yeah, a lot of the stuff that you made, like this Anthony Edwards Adidas print that you have here. I mean,
Hmm.
did not much negative space to be found here. Everything's
Yeah,
kind of taking space, but it's still like even so, it's still like oriented properly, like
right.
um, with the coloring and everything, especially it's just the way that it all comes together. Like it's just there's nothing wrong with it. I look at that and I'm like, that's a piece. That's a piece right there.
Right. Thank you. Yeah, that's one of my favorite things I made too. Like it's crazy because um like I said, I think I have such a love and I pull from so many different things, but like making that, I was like I want to make like this thing that feels like a real like old shoe advertisement. And that was kind of like the idea behind it. So it's a lot of just intention with like everything I create of trying to get across a certain idea or like a certain feeling. Like that's definitely like the biggest thing.
Yeah, and on that note, what's I know it's hard to pick favorites, but what would you say are like some of the like best pieces that you've made that you've really enjoyed?
Uh, I mean, like, love the Anthony Edwards stuff. Um, I love there's this cover I made for Trippy, that didn't get used. That's like one of my favorite things I like ever. Um, I have like the Allen Iverson stuff I made. I have like a old piece I made called like Rainbow Road. Like I love like I did a lot of physical work for that, and that was like one of my favorite things ever. Like just working because I incorporated so many different ideas. Like um, I would say a lot of my more like colorful stuff. Um, that's probably some of my favorite stuff because I remember just the process of making that, and it was a lot of just experimentation. It was a lot of just kind of trying different ideas. I think that's just been the main thing for me, and I think like all those are some of my favorite things ever. Where I feel like I'm trying to do something different than I've done before.
Gotcha. And how do you because I know everyone's got their own kind of way about it, but uh, like with any artist, I'd imagine you experience creative blocks just like anyone else. What is your process for kind of pushing through that or moving through it? What does that look like for you?
People ask me this literally like every day. Um, I always never really have like a clear cut answer, but I feel like the thing that's always gotten me through creative blocks is just, I think, trying different creative things. Like, if you mainly make posters, like, go ahead, like, go on Photoshop, try to make a cover. And it's like, it may not even come out good. Like, you may not even finish it, but it kind of gets you further out of a place of feeling stuck or feeling like you can't do something. I think that's just the main thing to get out of creative blocks is uh, trying to get out your comfort zone, soaking up a lot of uh, inspiration, references. Whenever I'm not working, I'm always like looking on Pinterest, like looking just for cool stuff. Like maybe not even just to create something, but just to like see stuff I like. It's I think it's all just kind of a build up to creating something.
So if I have this right, it's less about like trying to put pressure on the piece or whatever it is that you're working, but just doing stuff, like just putting something out there, like just at least getting something on the page, like whether or even just like not on the page, but like just like finding some inspiration or just taking time like to just
Right.
continue the process to kind of just keep the momentum going. Um just so that at least like, yeah, okay, fine. So it's a misstep. Okay, I'll just press Control Z, no problem. Like I'll just undo, like no big deal. Like this isn't
Yeah.
not dealing with like scarce materials or anything like that, like just kind of like having to keep doing stuff and then eventually like, oh, there's something there. Like is that what it
Right.
looks like basically?
Yeah, I would say that's probably like the biggest thing for me, especially because I don't make things like in one day anymore. So I feel like everything I create now, it's kind of like a process of like a build up to getting to the final product. And I think that's always like the best way to look at creating because I think it kind of helps you from getting burnt out. It gives you the opportunity to be able to work on other stuff or maybe just take time to look at other stuff. Like, um, I think that's just kind of the way to get out of creative blocks. Also, just trying creative things, like not always doing like the things you always do. Like, I love making clothes. Like, I'd like make beats like in my free time. Like it kind of helps me just keep creative flow. I think that's just the main thing. Like there has to always be a creative rhythm to be able to make stuff.
Gotcha. Yeah, that kind of reminds me of are you familiar with Rick Rubin?
Yes, of course.
Yeah. There's an interview that I saw of his. I forget which artist specifically he was talking about, but he was helping somebody with an album, and they just had this one song left, and like for the life of him, the lead of the band, he's like, "Fuck, man, I can't." Like, there's this bridge. I don't have
Hmm.
any words. I don't know how to go about it. Like, I'm fully tapped out. Like, I don't know what the fuck to do. So Rick takes him aside. He takes him to this giant wall he has in his house there, which is full of like all these random books.
Right.
Um, and he's like, yeah, just pick a book. Like, doesn't matter. Just pick a book, open up to a page, find a passage. I forget what the actual book was, but the guy goes to it, opens it up, finds a passage, looks at the words, and he's like, "Oh shit, that's perfect. We could actually like
Yeah.
split that in. There's enough like
Uh-huh.
there's good cadence to the words. Like this actually fits." And it was just this like organic process of like, okay, fine. So we got a creative block. Well, let's see
Right.
if we can find a different outlet or like a different source for it, and just kind of keep fishing until we find something kind of similar to what you said of just like just to keep it pushing, like having um having something, whether it's an outlet or a source of inspiration that you could just go to or tap into to just kind of keep it going until you stumble on kind of like a theme that connects to it, and then you can get right back into that groove.
Yeah. I think that's kind of one of the most important things. Like I look at art and like creating sometimes it's like a rhythm, like if you're not creating for a while, it's going to be way harder to just make something at all because you're thinking about it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different mindset than when you're constantly making stuff. And like I know that like the exact story like you're talking about too. And it's literally like the same thing. I feel like sometimes it's kind of you're maybe not even looking in the right place, or you may not know you're not looking in the right place, but it'll just kind of hit you sometimes. Sometimes you need to make space to be able to feel the final product. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. I write in my spare time. I have like a newsletter that I do for my other page, and whenever I get like a creative block or anything, or I'm just out of ideas, like so long as I just get some like words out on the page, I know
Right.
eventually I'll be able to find my place. Like, you know, might need to step away, go outside for a smoke, whatever. Um,
Right.
but then eventually, like just like some idea or something will hit me all of a sudden, and yeah, I don't know what that is, like that like
Yeah.
weird spirit that kind of just flows
Right.
through and we're able to like kind of tap into. I know like some people have called it the muse before. um this
Yeah.
like weird like psychic entity that we can just kind of tap into for inspiration. And like there's no better feeling like it when you're just able to kind of lock in on that and be like, "Oh, like I got the vision. I know how to execute. Like this is perfect. Everything is like coming all at once." Like there's no better feeling than that. Whether you're writing or digital design or clothing or what
Right.
have you, like there's literally no better feeling in the world than that.
It's amazing. It's one of like the best feelings like in the world to me. Just kind of when you know like you got it. Like like oh, like I figured it out. Like it's really like a missing puzzle piece sometimes. Like art is sometimes kind of just like a missing puzzle piece to be able to finish something. And that's why I feel like it's always hard to be able to try to like finish stuff in one day sometimes because I always say like I like sometimes like ideas just they need time to grow. Like you're not able to always do something as quick as you did the other thing. Everything is different.
Oh yeah, and you got to be available for it too. Like I'll have an idea like right as I'm drifting off to sleep sometimes, and I'm like,
Yeah.
shit. All right, okay, fuck it. Like I gotta actually write this down, otherwise I'm gonna wake up and
Right.
like be kicking myself and not have any idea. And then sometimes like as I'm writing it, I'm like, wait, hold on, I got to look this up. And then like 2-3 hours go by, and I'm like, fuck, okay, I like I actually got to go to sleep because I can't execute right now. Like it's good that I have all these
Yeah.
ideas, but like I just gotta I gotta make room for it. But when it strikes, like you really got to be able to capture like whatever it is like that inspiration is and really tap into that because then once it's gone like that's it like that feeling is gone like
Yeah.
I've tried like to like I'll have like a list of ideas that I want to write about
Mhm.
like just I set for the future. I just don't have time in the present or whatever. But then when I revisit the
Right.
idea, I'm just like, man, like I'm not attached to it emotionally as I was in the moment.
Right.
It doesn't feel genuine to kind of like like revive it like some Frankenstein monster. Like it kind of it
Right.
feels weird like that, right? Like revisiting like an old
Yeah.
idea that you're like, man, like I know what I was trying for, but I don't know. It's just something
Yeah.
about it that's I'm so disconnected from right now.
Yeah. I feel that all the time. It's literally like a spark, like you said, like literally, like it'll be almost like every day. Like I'll be just chilling, probably about to go to sleep, and then out of nowhere, like I'll see something, and it'll kind of just give me like an idea, or it'll give me like an idea of like want to create something for, and it's like I need to do that now. And that's like the thing about creative sparks is like they'll go away, and it's like they'll go away and it's like a completely different feeling. It's like a void there in a sense where that like feeling in your heart, like it's not the same. Like you can't always like get that back.
Hmm.
And like I dude, I have to write down like everything I do. Like there's times where like I'll have like super specific ideas, and I'll write down like that idea like itself like in words, of like what I want to like do in Photoshop to like go back to it later and be like, okay, like let me like lay that down. So it's crazy.
Yeah, it's fun though, man. There's nothing else like it. I just wish I did more of that kind of stuff in my youth. Like if I missed out on
Mhm.
anything, it's definitely that. Like I used to do graffiti a little bit growing up here and there, just like very simple like tags and whatnot. And man, like there was at the time like there's no better time than like me just like taking out my longboard and just going around and like looking for inspiration or just trying to find um something that I wanted to make, like just like on those nights out where like I didn't
Right.
know where I was gonna go. I didn't have any plans for a piece, just had a couple of cans in
Hmm.
my bag and going around hoping to find something. Like that was definitely like the most fun that I've ever had creatively. um
Yeah. I feel like it's always like moments like that, just kind of you're not even thinking about it at all. Like you could just be doing like the most regular thing ever, just like having a good time, and it's like, damn, it gets you so inspired creatively because it's just like you have so much like emotion like built up like inside of you. It just like kind of flows over into creativity. It's something that's just kind of like within you. I feel like, when you're an artist, you're an artist. Like those kind of those feelings and all those things are like within you, and they don't completely go away. Like it's never like a permanent like thing of like where you just feel like you'll never like create again. You may have like imposter like moments like that, but it'll never fully go away because that's just it's like a part of you.
oh yeah, yeah, there's like I've had to work like through like kind of like I don't know what I guess what I could call like permanent creative blocks. Like
Yeah.
when I would just be making a piece, I'm just like, man, like this, I don't know, this feels like a copy of something, or like this feels like it just doesn't like feel genuine. But at any time that I've ignored that and instead said like, look, just get something on the page, like just get
Right.
something out. Like at the moment it might feel awkward or weird or whatever, but as long as you just get it out and you finish the piece, like once everything is said and done, then you can make your um, distinctions about it. But in the moment, like all that second guessing, I mean, like especially as like creatives, like the having moments of self doubt, like that's kind of par for
Yeah.
the course. That doesn't really go away.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's like the life of being an artist is crazy because I feel like everyone kind of has those moments of doubt or just kind of where you're kind of like, oh, like what's next? Like I don't know what I'm gonna do next. It may make you honestly feel like you may like never create like again, but I think it always comes back, and I think that that's like the biggest meaning ever in terms of whether you're an artist or not. It's just like those things are always just kind of there.
Do you think that it's like especially in like in this day and age, just at present, do you think that this is something that's like a feasible or like a viable uh, kind of career for someone to have? I mean, even if it was like a moment, like a temporary moment in their lives to
Hmm.
kind of have like artistic expression. Because I mean, I've heard about it on like the tech side of Twitter. A lot of people saying like, don't bother going for computer science or coding degrees. Like AI is gonna completely wipe that out. But art is it's just it's in a different caliber. It's a different game on its own,
Right.
because there's always going to be hunger for like that kind of human element to it. um but do you find that, at least in what you've seen in the digital space, that it's still that's something that's viable, that someone could make a living off of these days?
um. Oh, it's always possible, but it's definitely not as easy as it was. I would say. Um.
Compared to
Like I
when?
what? Yeah. Like during like peak like pandemic and everything like that. Like I I I I feel like everyone was like just kind of being able to pick it up. Like you were able to kind of, it was really easy to grow on Twitter at the time too. Like you could kind of come out of nowhere and like get like a couple like viral like art pieces under your belt, and it's like now you're kind of just in that community. Like you have like a following, you have a name, like people are gonna see your stuff, they're gonna want to like commission you, whatever. um and it's always still possible for sure, but um I would say it's definitely a lot harder now than it was. Just the landscape in itself, especially like graphic design too. Um it's a hard field right now. um I would say kind of growing, because I feel like a lot of people are maybe doing things that they're not like fully expected to, or um I think that in a sense it's kind of like declining like economically. And I think that it's kind of putting a lot of people in a spot where they have to do like stuff like freelance, and things like that if they really want to do graphic design and art. And I think it's always possible, but I think it's always something now, especially where you kind of have to just be prepared for the ups and downs. It's not an upcycle at all, especially when you're kind of doing this all on your own. Like it's always possible, but you have to just be prepared for those types of situations and hard times, because it'll always happen, and it's a lot harder when you're independent.
Yeah, and I mean on the bright side, like the amount of tools that people have access to, the amount of platforms. I mean, there's so many websites out there right now that exist
Right.
solely for people to, just upload the JPEG and boom, now you just have a merch store.
Yeah.
Now you got your stuff on the hoodie, shirt, and all that. And I mean, look, if you're into fast fashion, if you just want to make a buck to sustain yourself, that's certainly a route that you could go down on. I mean, I don't think that
Yeah.
you get something like your sweater by doing that kind of stuff, but just something to sustain yourself, like, yeah, it's certainly feasible.
Yeah, there's a lot of creative outlets with it. There's prints, there's merch, there's a lot of things, and I feel like, especially, I mean, even for myself, it helps me out a lot, and it helps out a lot of my peers. Just, I think now more than ever, it's kind of about, okay, we have the art, like, what else can you offer? And I think that's kind of the space in itself of people having, not even having, but I guess just picking up things like creating clothing and creating merch and selling prints. It gives people an opportunity to be able to sustain themselves more and even grow, because you can grow from doing things like that too. And that in itself, it helps.
Yeah, no, for sure. um if there was anybody that you could collab with right now, who do you think that you'd want to make a piece with, or a collection, or what have you?
Ooh, is this like,
Could be alive, could be dead.
okay, is this like specifically just like artist? I'm trying to think of who I would probably say.
No, I mean, like, whatever, like the piece that you collab on, that's of your choosing, whether it's a song or clothing or what have you. And yeah, the artist, by all
Okay,
means, like whoever it is that you think would be cool to make something with.
that's a really good question. Uh, I don't know if I have like maybe a specific person in mind, but I would love to do something like fully like lock in with uh like a historic like illustrator or like animator. Like something kind of like, I love like the idea of like gorillas, like how, I don't know
Mm.
if like like the story of like he moved in with like this roommate, and his roommate was like an illustrator and like huge animator, and that's how like he started like this character thing. He started this whole thing. That to me would be like the coolest thing ever, to kind of start like a whole entity just based off like a character, and that's like the whole like idea behind it. Like I would love that, be able to like lock in with like a super like crazy like illustrator animator and make complete thing out of maybe even like a movie. That would be like the coolest.
Yeah, so like build something from the ground up.
Right.
Yeah, because I'm not familiar with the like the mythos behind the gorillas. But I've always kind of been fascinated, especially like with their earlier works and how um like as you said, like it's very like a lot. It's just mixed media. I mean, the music videos are all animated. The
Hmm.
songs themselves, I mean, they're just so iconic and one of one that there really
Right.
isn't. I mean, like to this day, anybody that's even like come close to what it is that they do, and it's so hard to like really like encapsulate the music in like one genre or the other. It's just
Yeah.
it's its own kind of vibe.
Right.
Um, so yeah, no, making something like that, no, that would certainly be dope because you don't really see a lot of creative pursuits like that where somebody just kind of takes something from the ground up and develops this whole story behind it. I'm having a hard time like even thinking of anybody right now in the modern age that's doing anything like that, whether it's with a character or a
Yeah.
brand or what have you.
Yeah. It's such a it's so funny because it's like so long ago, but I feel like it's not even something you see a lot of people do as much now. I feel like it was even more prevalent kind of in the early 2000s than it was like now. Like you don't really see a lot of people kind of running off like the idea of like creating like a world like off a character. And I think that's like one of the coolest things ever because it's like you can literally do like anything from that. Like the possibilities are endless. And I think that's why gorillas like they're so cool because like it's such a unique concept. Like they blended art, they blended rap, like they blended electronic, like so many different types of ideas and things, and like put them into like this one complete like package. That's like if I could ever do something like that, like that would be like insane.
Yeah, I think they're still around
Oh yeah.
making music. It looks like yeah, it looks like they actually had a drop around oh, actually they haven't been active since
They had a like album maybe last year, I think.
yeah, I remember something like that. But I know what you mean about like that having that kind of approach to it because there's not really a lot of like I can't really think of any like musicians or artists like anybody that's kind of creating a distinct identity or brand around some kind of a story. I mean, look, like every just about every album like these days, not just about, but like there's still quite a few that'll like they'll try to have some kind of a story behind it. Whether it's in the lyrics or just in the works. But there's not anybody that I really know that like plays a character, um, or like tries to kind of encapsulate that idea of
Yeah.
what it means. There's not really a lot of like that kind of weird approach to it. I like I because just about like every artist I
Yeah.
know is like they present themselves in like their full name or like their stage name or what have you. I mean,
Hmm.
Tyler the Creator probably is like one of the few that kind of stands out, but bro, like
Yeah.
that guy is so singular. Like it's hard to keep track of what he's doing. And there was one thing that in an interview I remember that allowed me to like understand his style because a lot of his just music was I found it just incoherent. I was like I can't follow it. Like it just seems like there's no order to it. And
Uh,
the way that he put it, he basically said that um if he likes the way that something sounds or if he likes the way that the words meld into each other or what have you, like
mhm.
he'll just make it. Like it doesn't have to um there's no like defined end goal. It's just okay, I have this like creative idea for this kind of piece,
Right.
and I want to just make it. And then he puts it out, and obviously does millions. Um,
Yeah.
and then he just goes from there. Because before I was like, wait, so like, is there like a story going between albums? Like, who is this guy? Like, I don't understand. And then I was like, yeah, but that's the
Yeah.
point. You're not supposed to understand. It's just him, pumping out all these different collections or songs or what have you. And he's just like, yeah, this is it. This is my library of work.
Yeah. Tyler is like one of my like favorite artists, and I think he's like super into like the idea of like world building and kind of like creating something from like the ground up, whether it be like a story or a character or like the concept of like an album. And I think that that's not really something like you see a lot, nowadays. And I think it's so interesting because you never really know what he's gonna do next, and it's like there's so much room of experimentation, even just on his process of like, okay, like where am I gonna go next with this? What am I gonna do here? Like you never really know, and I think that's just one of like the coolest things ever. It's like,
Yeah, I mean, like just looking at his stuff now on the shop, like I never thought that he would make like casual suit wear, kind of stuff.
yeah.
Like from what I remember, like when they started, um, it was like just not streetwear necessarily, but like you could tell this wasn't exactly like a three piece that you could wear to the country club. But even like just some of the stuff that I see
Yeah.
here, like yeah, it's definitely got that vibe to it.
Yeah, like the like seeing like the transition of like golf to like Lafleur, it's like it's crazy because it's like two completely different things, and it's like you look at it like you wouldn't even think like it's like the same person like making this because it's like really sophisticated, it's like really mature, and it's like damn, like you can definitely see like the growth of like I think like him and like even like his ideas um especially now because it's like he's doing like a huge part of like everything on this, like the direction, like he's coming up with the ideas, like he's heavily involved in like every process, and I think like you don't see that a lot nowadays, and I think that that's like it's beautiful.
Oh yeah, no, this is the kind of shit you'd see at like a ski resort or something, or
Yeah,
like at like an Ivy school, like during the
right.
summer.
And it's like it's the thing about it is like really cool to me. It's like it's all like very, very like intentional. Like you can kind of pinpoint like the idea like he's trying to get across of like the clothing. And it's like that's like perfect. Like you achieved like goal.
Yeah, one thing that's always stood out to me like about Tyler is that like he perfectly encapsulates like the spirit of the creative. Like he'll just like Rick Rubin has said, like the ideal form of like creation, or like the ideal like kind of um not theory but like philosophy that you should have towards art in its kind of purest form is just to kind of make it as a diary entry for yourself and to just put it out into the world and let the people enjoy it. But at the end of the day,
Yeah.
it has to start and end with yourself, because the moment that you start like trying to
Right.
consider what the audience is going to like, or what the target market is going to be like, or how you have to make all these adjustments, it gets you further and further away from what it is that makes your art actually good. And there's no better person than Tyler to encapsulate that. I mean, the guy just like
Right.
has an idea, rocks with it, and it just goes for it. Like you said, like the transition that they've made over the years with all his brands and everything that he's made. I mean, the guy's making. I didn't even know that he was making fucking luggage, and like this shit is dope. If I could afford
Yeah.
it, I'd definitely buy it.
Yeah, like it's like insane to like because like I've seen him like grow up in a way too
Hmm.
because like I've known him for so long, so like to like see like the things like he does now compared to like back then, it's like damn, like you can really see like the love for like art and creativity just like in everything because it's like everything's so like well done. It's like perfected. It's like you can tell like he set out the purpose and like achieved it completely. And like, for someone to not even because he does so many different things, like he makes music and then he makes like all these clothes and everything. It's like to think that like that's all like one person doing all that. It's crazy.
Oh yeah, no, I like to this day I'll still come back to the is it oldies, that 15-minute music video that they
Yeah.
popped up on YouTube? Like when I first stumbled
Yeah.
upon that, I was like, man, this is a fucking vibe. Like I remember I was going back from university. I had like a break for a week. I was going back home and I had to write this fucking English
Mhm.
paper on the train over, and for like 5 hours of the whole ride, like I listened to oldies on repeat the whole time. I was like, this is gold.
Yeah.
This is pure gold. And just even when I saw the music video, I was like, yeah, this is creativity at its peak of just like
Yeah.
being able to harness the spontaneity of the moment and create something that is just there's nothing like it. Like I've still never heard
Right.
like a record that still comes close to it.
Yeah. Like the whole like very like ahead of his time, like for his age. Like he was like what, probably 17, 18 then, like making like these music videos, and like it's cool because you can tell it's so authentic. It's like authentic. It's like very spontaneous. Like they're probably just going in, not even running with like an idea. They're just like, oh yeah, look, let's get everyone together like in this like studio and like do like a video like on the fly, like, and it just came out like super super cool, and it works perfect for like the song and everything. Like it captures like a feeling.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I remember in the video like there was because they were doing like some kind of promo photo shoot, and they
Mhm.
had they had they had their old tracks playing, and then when as soon as that one came on, they just kind of started impromptu rapping to it, and then
Yeah.
the like whoever was like trying to manage the shoot was like trying to like get them to like all the rappers to like coalesce, and Tyler's like, no, you fucking
Yeah.
ignore him, you keep recording. We're spinning gold here. We're gonna make it through it, and then like just the rest of the video, I was like, man, this is like they captured lightning in a bottle with this. This is
Yeah.
something else.
Right. It's like the perfect moment, like captured on camera, and it's like so cool because it's like it's just there. It's like wasn't like completely planned out. Like you can tell they just kind of went with it, but it's like it just captured, like you said, like lightning in the bottle.
Yeah, just a bunch of guys fucking rapping, having the time of their lives with their friends, just chilling, making the best of it. I mean, there's nothing else like it. Like you can't. There's no amount of like
Yeah.
planning or anything that you could do to kind of even match this kind of thing.
Right. It's so cool.
Wicked. Well, listen. I don't want to keep you here for too long. Is there anything else that you might have wanted to cover? Anything else you wanted to highlight here?
Um, I would say main thing, honestly, just keep on the lookout for whatever I have planned next. Um, I don't even maybe completely know, but I have a lot of things I want to do, a lot of things I want to achieve. I know the main thing, obviously, is of course, just finishing up this new collection that I'm excited for that. But that's probably it. Yeah.
And then the new collection. What's the what can you tell me about the theme about it, or your kind of your ideas for it, if you can?
Um. Yeah. It's really just kind of, I would say, like a capsule, just trying to it. The main idea is it's based around like music. It's based around kind of the culture around it, dance culture, rave culture. It's a very big like homage to it, but it's something that's like a very very like personal connection. um I would say like making the whole thing, that's just been kind of the mindset of, in terms of what I've been thinking about, what I've been listening to. Like I have like a lot of different ideas of like what I want to do in terms of like the marketing for it, like the clothing I want to make for it, everything. I want to, kind of develop like a whole, I would say, world around it. So it's going to be a lot more than I feel like the average like clothing drop, which I think people would definitely look forward to.
Wicked. Yeah, man. Can't wait to can't wait to see it. And yeah, ever since stumbled upon your page there, I've always loved your pieces. Like I said earlier, there's really nothing else like it. So I'm excited to see what you come up with in the future. Wishing you all the best. In terms of places where people can find your stuff, it's mostly just like Twitter and Instagram, or
Yep. My Twitter is GVMINI and my Instagram is GVMINIS, and that's pretty much everything there.
beautiful. And you take commissions, yeah?
Absolutely, I do.
Okay, yeah. People can find that info in the profile there. So yeah, uh, big ups to you, Rashon. Thank you for taking the time for this interview. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me. I greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah, my pleasure, man. My pleasure. So yeah, with that, we'll wrap it up. So this episode will be posted probably within 48 hours or so. I'll send you the link, and yeah, would definitely love to have you back on in the future. Once your new collection drops, or if any time you want to highlight some new pieces, it would be great to have you on again.
Of course, bro. I'd love to. Thank you.
No worries. See you guys. See you later.
See ya.